Okay, hello. Seems like I made these things an eternity ago, but I finally got around to doing the sheaths. Okay? Now, before any of these little beauties get shipped to its new owner, I make it a sheath. And I probably will hear this later on in the other end of the video, but I believe that every knife that I sell has a sheath that comes with it. And it's so funny because, like, other knife makers come from the standpoint that by not giving you a sheath, it's a better value, because then if you do your own kydex, you can do your own kydex sheath, because so many people do kydex now, or you can have a sheath made for you. And a lot of knife makers get criticized for doing that, because it's like, oh, well, you didn't give me a sheath with the knife. Well, you have to realize something. The sheath can be just as laborious as the knife itself. So by buying a knife with a sheath, you may actually increase your labor costs pretty significantly. And if you see my prices on my stuff, it's not very expensive. My prices are pretty low. My sale prices are even lower. And it's like, you have to realize, okay, yeah, oh, cool knife, but don't realize the sheath that it comes with took time to make too. And it's not always this. People say, oh, I'm going to send you a $5 sheath. They don't have $5 sheath, all right? Even the kydex sheaths take a little more to do, because you have to fit them to the knife, so it's not too retentive and it's not too loose. Same with these guys here, okay? I mean, it takes a little bit of know-how, and I just don't get on my sewing machine and run the sewing machine. That takes a learning curve. In this case, I'd actually grind the leather down to spec in certain portions. Like up here, I had to grind it down so it doesn't protrude too far into the user's thigh when they wear it. And let me see which one this is. And had to wet form it to fit it. And I had to machine down a lot of this leather because it was too thick. But I'm glad I did use this leather, because it came up with a really awesome product. Okay? These aren't sharpened or done either, by the way. I still have to sharpen them. But anyways, I believe in shipping a sheath with a knife. I believe it's an easier sell with it when you have a sheath. I believe that the people who get the knife can go right on wearing the knife and using it and enjoying it. That's why I ship with a sheath. It's my personal choice. Some makers don't. It's funny because you catch it if you do, and you catch it if you don't. Because some people, well, I like to do my own sheaths. Okay, well, if I make one knife without the sheath, put it up on the site, or I'll make a sheath as an option. How long? I mean, I may take a while to make the sheath for that knife. I'm not going to make 10 sheaths and 10 different knives and not sell 9 knives and have one sheath left over for that particular knife that I didn't sell. I mean, I'm not going to do that. So each knife gets a sheath. So that's that. But this is how I couldn't really call this a tutorial. It's just how I make a knife sheath, and it's a start to finish, all the way from how I draft to the final end, where I actually put the where I buff the end here. It's from start to finish how I do the sheath, this particular type of sheath. Some of you may do a sheath differently. Why don't you go make a video and show us how you do it if they think it's better, right? How much are video cameras these days? See you on the flip side. Okay, so I'm going to give you an idea how I start this up. I'll take a piece of graph. I like graph paper. Use any paper you want, but I like graph paper because the graphs give me kind of a reference point. I'll fold it in half. Okay, so there's my graph paper. Okay, I'll take my knife, set it right there on the fold, and usually I have a pencil when I do this, but I'll decide where I want the end of the sheath to be. I'll come down here and I'll come up like this. I'll draw a buffer around it. Okay. that. Right there. Okay. So I'll cut that out right there. Okay, first. Then I'll glue it to a piece of get my glue. Glue it to a piece of thicker, like between cardboard and paper. I'll glue it onto there, let it dry, then cut it out, and I have my spacer pattern. Okay. Get my second piece of paper. Fold it in half. Put the spacer pattern down here. Determine where I want that to be. Okay. About there. Then I'll draw across here like this. I'll take my knife out, hold it steady, and trace that. Okay. Oops. Just like that, okay? What I'll do is I'll flip my paper around on the fold. Fold the opposite way, okay? Like this. And I'll go in and I'll cut all that out while it's folded. And I'll wind up with a pattern that looks like this. Okay? I take this pattern, glue it onto a piece of paper, much like I did the spacer pattern. Okay? You can see now that the knife has a pattern. And I can put the spacer in. And I'm not worried about the leather being too tight or anything like that just yet, because I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you later how I wet form. It starts out like that. Now the strap portions, I don't really worry too much about the strap portions, because the strap portions are just a strap of leather that's cut out with the set width that's appropriate for the width of this holster. In other words, if you go too wide, then the strap will be protruding on the spacer section and coming off of here. What you want to do is you want to come up with a width for your strap that is proportioned to the sheath. Just go ahead, make one strap, and then from that strap, leather strap, I trace on for the hide and cut other straps the same width. Okay, so that's pretty easy to do. Also, same goes for this here. Usually about maybe a little under an inch, 3/4 of an inch, enough so that snap looks aesthetic for the retaining straps. Then of course I'll trace all the retaining straps off of that one strap off the hide. And if you have a little extra, that's okay, because you're going to notice down the video where I grind these to fit. I actually use my grinder to fit these. So if it's a little excess, it's okay, because it'll give you a little fudge room to move around later on when you actually start to fabricate the sheath. Okay? So this is the pattern you want though here. This is the part that, at least that I want critical, that I want to have taken care of. The strap, I can F with the strap later. So after that, I'll trace this to the hide. Here's one that I screwed up on. But I'll make this. There's a big gash in there where I tried to make it to where it was more foldable. Actually wound up grinding that a little bit to make it more foldable. But anyways, this was a screw up, so I wound up using this as the pattern. So what I would do is after this first one, I took this thing, and I have this big hide, which is what this leather thing I'm always on, okay? This pad is off the hide, and it looks just like this. It's like a big half a cowhide. And I'll just take these things, okay? And I'll put these things on here. And I'll use a Sharpie, trace it out. I'll take my box cutter here, okay? And I'll cut those out to match that. I'll trace a bunch of these onto the hide, okay? I'll take my Sharpie, I'll cut them out, and go ahead and make about 3 of these. I had to make 3. So I have 3 spacers. I've had 3 sheath body patterns out, blanks out. I did 3 of the sheaths to spec to fit this sheath. I just decided what width I wanted it to go with, how far I wanted it to protrude. Trace the length out and the width out onto the hide, cut it out, and then I had a bunch of parts laying around that I sewed up together. And this is the part you're going to see from here on in the movie. You're going to see the fabrication portion from start to finish. I kind of wish I could have showed the part where I cut everything out, but I just decided to start filming video about maybe, you know, right before I started to grind on the parts to get the bark off of the parts. That's when I decided to start shooting video. So hopefully I can kind of walk through the drafting portion, give you an idea how it works. So I got some Latigo leather. I told you it's a little on the thick side. So just because it's thick doesn't mean you can't go ahead and machine it down a bit. This is a really coarse grit belt. Forgot what it is. It's a German. It's a clean spore. One of the coarser grits. It doesn't say on the back. I'll find it when I get into the. I think this is. There's a 36. It's one of the 36 clean spores. Heavy removal. And I probably will just give a light burnishing with a 120 or an 80. Probably more like an 80. Just a once over, just to get rid of some of that suede right there. Just make it a little smoother. And I'm doing some straps right here. Oh, this is a little project I had laying around for a little bit. Just my supplier was out of inch and a quarter wide stock. They said we got 1 inch stock, so I said, yeah, go ahead and send it. So I went ahead and made this little nifty here. It's kind of like a small utility knife. It's going to go in a Kydex sheath. I'm going to use a thinner green and black Kydex to do that. It's going to be a necker. Prices are going to be pretty competitive on these. But don't expect a whole lot of them. I'm not going to get into the business of offering a competitively priced smaller knife unless I sell a ton of them. And hammer these down a little bit so they're folded. See how I did that? I taper these ends over here, so when it's sewed up it protrudes less into the user's thigh, and then this here will stay bent, make more of a proper loop. So you got to kind of train it with the hammer to go down. Now these over here, notice something funny. I bend them over slightly like this. Okay, hammer them. Okay, use them, bend them over slightly like that. I've already hammered this one, that's why it bends so easily. Hammer it, so you get like this U, and then it can slide into the. Kind of lends itself a little more to getting into the slots I'm about to cut in to the straps here. So you have that sticking out like that. Then you put your snap there, and that's where your blade goes. I may not actually add an extra stud to these. I think these are pretty tight without the stud. I'll see across that bridge, as I say, across the bridge when they get there. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to cut the slots for these, sew these onto the sheath portions, and then fit the sheath portions to the spacers, glue those up, clamp them, and then tonight or a couple hours from now go sew them up for the final sewing, then do the actual wet form and all that stuff. Add a little extra leather to these spacers. So I'm going to do the spacers now. I'm going to go ahead and take it off right there. So this sheath stitching will work. And then what I'll do is these are kind of like slanted. I'll just go through and just kind of take that leather off, bring it down even over here and here. So I may grind it, I may cut it. Kind of depends on what works right here. This here won't matter because this will get brought down during the stitching part. So I'm going to fit this to this, okay? And what I'll do is put this up here, okay, and back. This will all be just maybe like clamped on. Then I'll make the determination of where to mark my holes for the retaining strap and how much of the knife I want in the sheath and how much of that retaining strap I want, because there's no point in having a retaining strap if this part here can get past this. One of my biggest pet peeves is when you can pull a knife and it just goes through the retaining strap. You know, I used to see knives like that all the time. I wondered why. This curvature part here, keep it below that so it actually does retain the knife. So you have the first form of retention, which is the strap. See, it comes out. It won't come out. See where that's at? See where that ricasso starts? It won't come out. So you have that form of retention. Then you have the actual blade. The actual sheath retaining the knife too. May be a little looser when I apply the edge, and then which is actually good because then the edge won't drag on the spacer, and it'll click on using the ricasso as that ricasso portion, which is the portion right here, as kind of a second form of retention. So you have I always like to try to have two forms of retention on the sheaths, on leather sheaths. Okay, so now you can see that each blade, every sheath's now assigned its own knife, spacer, body, belt loop, retention strap. It's all going to be fitted and measured out. Holes are going to be. I'm going to punch the holes. I punch the holes with this thing into the strap, into the belt loop. Then carve them out with a box cutter. Maybe I'll place a retaining stud or not. We'll see how it goes. But so I decided, is it enough belt loop being sewed up? Is it enough belt loop for the belt? And then the strap placement comes down here. Then I take my Sharpie, go under and put a little dot or a line about where I want that strap to be. Then set that aside. I'll have my mark, and then I'll go ahead and place the lines where I want the belt loop to go. Punch the holes and cut it. See, it's about the right thickness. Over here, put a couple little holes in there with a leather punch. 4 holes. Like that. All these start out as a paper pattern. And I glue it onto some thicker paper, and then transfer that pattern to the leather, and it becomes the sheaths. So it basically comes down to that initial design having to be on the money, because you're going to transfer that design to several sheaths, and then if you're like me, you make several knives at one time. You want to make it several sheaths at one time. So that's why I don't pop up here showing one knife that I make, because Behemoth Knives philosophy is there's two I guess you could say premises, or not premises, but I don't know, what would you call it, maxims to my knife making philosophy, and that is, there's 2 things, which is spread the gospel. That's why whenever you order one of my knives, you get a bunch of business cards, like 8 or 9 business cards, to give to your friends and spread the love. That's why you always find me making 3 or 4 of similar types of knives at one time, putting them up at one time, so I can have 3 or 4 different customers, at one time buying my stuff. It's like, oh, I didn't get the knife, so I make 3 or 4 knives at one time. Plus, it's easier for me to get more, I guess you could say, consistent results when I got that one knife in my mind that I'm working on. So, okay, so as you see, I punched holes in, cut the center out with a strap. With the strap, but cut the centers out with the box cutter. Now I got my retaining strap in there. I can decide. It's pretty thick. I may not put a rivet in there. I might see how it looks, because sometimes rivets can press out. But I might want to put a rivet there. But now that strap's in, I now make the determination exactly where I want to sew. Okay, and I got some cool little clamps I'm going to try out. Went ahead, cut the slots, equipped the straps, fitted all those, and some of these here, if you notice, have like this. I need to go out now and decide to scale this down a little bit, so it's a little more of a fits against the hip a little better when you wear it. Also, it also decide if I need to trim anything off here, make it look more consistent with the first one. So these are pretty consistent, the same. This one here is a little long. I might actually trim that off and then really do some grinding to scale that down. You know how I grind. You've seen how I do that, so I don't really think I need to show that. Next shot should be me sewing these up, getting out the leather glue here, and gluing them up. And then I have these clamps. I'm going to try these. I've never tried these clamps before. There's some like 35-cent clamps that I bought. I'm going to go ahead and clamp these on to the leather. Let that glue set up, and then should be the final application of the thread. So back at the plate steel, piece of plate steel. Got the auto body hammer. Hope that's showing up okay on my video. Got a knife, got the spacer for this thing. Take the knife and the spacer off, set it to the side. Go ahead, get this kind of evened up best I can. Place a clamp on it. Okay, like that. Like that. Take the auto body hammer, without the knife in the sheath, of course. Just clamp it down. Put a fold on the top there, and kind of helps to fold it a bit. Come on back. Down two. Okay, so got my newspaper, got my clamps, and I'll go ahead. Probably won't have to worry about this, but I do it anyway. Line up my knives according to the sheath placement on the newspaper. Probably won't matter when I wet form. You can probably interchange one sheath with the other, but I suppose it just helps. And I'll start with this one. So get my glue out. Okay. And carefully place that along the edge. A little bit extra comes out, but I don't think that's a biggie. Some people say, you use too much glue. I'll say, yeah, shut up. No, I won't say that. Let's push this off the edge a bit. Give me a little wiggle room when I put the knife in. That looks good. Yeah, that should work. And put the next bead of glue up. Close the sheath and clamp it. Get it straight as I can. That's why you want to pound that sheath and get that fold in there early on, so you don't have that issue of the glue screwing about. So clamp, 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 clamp. It should be good to go. So I'll do this one here. And I got my clamps. I just kick it for a few, let it set up. Might even sew by tonight. We'll check it out when that happens. Close to the edges you can, but not too close, but not, too far away. So here goes nothing. Actually, I can't mark over that clip because it won't allow me to pass through the apparatus here. And I forgot. This spotlight, I use one of these LED headlamps. Goes over the head. Gives my area, kind of gives me some light to see. And I know what some of these older people talk about when they say they can't see their keys in the dark. Okay, so here goes nothing. Hold on to these two strings up. Get the thread started. Stitches going. Cut these off up here so they don't get caught up in the down here in the shuttle. That's where the bobbin's at. Then start stitching. Try to keep that thumb on the on the spacer. Well, I need my wits about me. I'll talk to you later. This is the stitch job. See, it's really irregular on the sides. I just got to go ahead, grind all that down, get it kind of close to the stitch, then I'll do the wet forming. Go ahead, hit these some more. Auto body hammer. So now I'm going to go ahead, do the wet form, let them soak. Alrighty. Knives, sink, shrink wrap. Just like wrapping your potatoes before you bake them, guys. Okay? O1 is a high carbon tool steel, so it is prone to rust. It's not a stainless steel. But even your stainless steels, you want to wrap your knives because this dye can get into a lot of different types of metal. Discolor your knife. So I put a couple coats of the shrink wrap over them. Get the sheet wet, get the sheet. That's simple. Downhill from here. So I got it wrapped up pretty good. Wrap up that point so it doesn't stab through the shrink wrap. Just wrap up the 2 pieces of shrink wrap and do another one. So some warm water out here. I have a biggie with the water. It's lukewarm. I'm gonna burn my hands, right? Just get it all wet. Pull it up. Again, try to do saran wrap. I'm just going to dry out overnight. When I get up in the morning, first thing I'll do is stick them out in the sun. They'll probably remain like this for maybe a day or 2. So I'm going to go over a couple times with the stitch right here, just to kind of close that off, make sure it doesn't unravel later. Just go here. I like to close it off here and close it off up there. I'll repeat the same thing. Just stitch 2, flip it around, stitch 2 the other way. Just gives it some longevity. Make sure that it doesn't, none of the threads back out. Okay, so I've got the sheaths. I've got the straps ready to go. So this part of the phase, I'm going to need the rivets and the ends that go on corresponding ends for the rivets. These are actually made by Tandy Leather. You can get these, I think, at most hobby stores that carry out a leather selection, leather crafting selection. And I also got my snaps. And with the snaps and with these usually comes some dies. I have one of those hand crimper kind. I've actually seen better results with the dies that come with it. So I got this one here for round caps as a flat end. I got an anvil that's round for the snap, and then I can turn it over for flat ends. And this here is actually to flange the snap portion over. Got my ball peen hammer, and I got my bodywork hammer. You can use a rawhide mallet. Probably could get the rawhide mallet, but just want to use the bodywork hammer. So let's start with removing the knife from the sheath, putting it somewhere where it won't fall off. We're going to go ahead and take these off, and I'm going to give it a good sheath. I'm going to give the sheath a once over again with a bodywork hammer. Okay. Just going to tamp it down again. Flip it over. gunk off of it. All right, take my strap that I'd already bent into that U shape that I showed you earlier. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of push that out. Throw one end through one loop. Throw the other end through the other loop. And I'll grab my, I forgot, also got my hole punch. Where did I put my stinking hole punch? Here it is, found it. This is an old school hole punch. W. Wharn Company, New Haven, Connecticut. When this thing is gone, I'm confident I will not find another quality hole punch. Maybe I'm wrong. Some of the hole punches I've bought recently are crap. These things over here bend. This thing here, rock solid. I mean, it's probably been around since the 40s. Bernard's patent pen, September 25th, 1894. Revised 1900. And July 1903. Okay, well. So, yeah, it's an oldie. So I got the smallest hole punch. You got 4 different attachments. You also got hexagonal shaped portions that may suggest you can probably unscrew these and put different attachments in to suit your hole punch needs. I'm sure you can actually find a quality hole punch, but this one's just really, it's been running. It'll be my dad's. He'll be here when he's gone, and I'll probably be here when I'm gone. So, okay, take the hole punch. And first things first, you also need a Sharpie pen. Okay, so I mark where I want that hole punch to go, dead center. Okay. And then I come over the line, and bam, here goes nothing. All right. Come around the other side. Kind of bend. If I can, I can't really fit that in there, so I'm gonna have to go back in this side, work it loose. You hear that crispy sound? That means it's kind of, leather's cut through. You hear it kind of crunch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it off to this side. There we go. Okay, I got a hole here. Find a little ice pick or something and get a nail, push that little piece of leather out of the middle of the hole. Okay. Take my rivet. Put my rivet in the middle here. Like so. Get my end cap here for the rivet. Put my end cap on the rivet. And this is why and it's funny because you're like wondering, well, why didn't you do that before? Well, I could have done it before. I like to position the loops on. I like to position the loops on, cut these, and then once I get my loops on, then I'll go ahead and apply these. I mean, you could probably apply them first, but then you got these things all in the way when you're sewing. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply it kind of as one of the last measures. So when I'm sewing these all up here, I don't have these flaps hanging out. You can secure them if you want. I just do it this way. You do your own thing. Just like I say, this is how I make a sheath. Okay, I take the anvil, the little anvil, flat side up. Okay, slip that under here and put that flat portion under the rivet. Okay, just like that. Take the end cap portion, the concave portion, place that over the end cap. Hammer that. Check the end cap. Looks like it's a nice flat, flush fit, and I have my rivet on. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, repeat this 3 times for my other sheaths, and then we'll move on to the snap placement. I got the sheath rivet portion done. Got the rivet in, so the strap's not going to move. Not necessarily have to have a rivet. You can Leave it without a rivet if you feel confident enough that it's not going to ever come out. You can do that. I just like to put a rivet in. You want to be careful when you're doing the rivet portion, because you can screw things up. Okay, so make sure this snap goes this way. This snap goes this way. Reason why, if you go backwards, you go this way first and this way here, you'll have the over snap version or portion right here. Okay, and when your thumb piece is going this way, you'll believe me, I've experienced it. When you're walking forward and you're sliding against things, this will come out. This will come off. Okay, so you want this portion here at the top of it. You want this portion here in first, and you want this portion on the top of it. So your tab is up. Okay, so get your Sharpie pen out. Okay, go about dead center of that grip. That's where I'm going to go. Try to eyeball it. You can break out your ruler and measure it if you want, but I'm going to go right about there. Okay, it's about center of the strap right there. Maybe I'll go about right there. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so take the knife out. Punch. Okay, gonna go ahead and we'll switch up to the next one. Just kind of go with these snaps and see which one of these is the most closest to the stem here. Okay, so this is the portion that's going over first, so the male end of the snap will go on to this portion here. Okay, just like that. Okay. Okay, so take the, I guess what I called it, the male end. I don't know what it's called. I'm sure there's a real name for it, but I'm kind of using electrical terms here. Okay, take your snap portion right here, put that there. Okay, think when you're doing this. Verify that that's the portion that's going to be against the grip of the knife. This will be the portion that's going over, so this is going to have the part that clicks onto this. Okay. Keep your wits about you when you do this. Take this little tool here, and I'll use the little anvil. Having an unforgiving surface to do this work helps. So have maybe on top of a vise or something metal that's firm, preferably. I mean, if you can wing it on something else, maybe you have to, but prefer something that's more unforgiving. Give myself a couple sections down here. A couple hammers right here. Okay. So it's on there pretty tight. Okay. So, get the knife. And let's see, I'm just gonna scribe. I'm not gonna, you can use a pencil, but I know I've done this before, so I'm just gonna scribe along here. Okay. I like to do a rounded cut on those leather pieces. Okay. Take the knife out. Grab me a cutter, your box cutter. So just you buy these at the hardware store, wherever you want, where you see these things. Okay, so on this part here, just kind of lightly start off, make a little channel. Okay, and then your blade will go back into the channel. Okay, so just don't dig your knife in because it can go a little uncontrollable. doing a couple of cuts to kind of create a channel, allow that blade to flow into. You can do your deeper cuts, but you just want something that, you know, that knife's going to go into every time for the first few cuts, and then after that you can bear down a little more on it. But I just take it a little easy. If you want, you can grind this off too. Usually I go over and grind everything off after it's all done, said and done. Probably should use a cutting board, but for that, but that's demonstration purposes. I'm doing it here so you can see it and I don't have to switch around so much. Okay, so now we're ready for the female version, the female end of the snap, which fill back here. Got it right here though. Okay, so now for this half, you're going to want to, for this half, okay, here's the snap, here's the other version. Okay, now if you just tighten it up and you put it here and you snap it on, you may not have enough grab. Okay, so you have to take into account that this added is going to really tighten the strap up. Okay, so I like to tighten it up here. Okay, I let a little bit out, maybe about 1 millimeter tension off of strap out. Square it up, and then this is just not exact science here, guys. Okay, but I just sort of just kind of look at where I'm at. Okay, there's the center of it. Reapply it. Let it reapply it, let a little bit out. So I can feel it. I can put them under my finger right here, okay? So I feel about halfway. That's the middle of the female end. So I'll just come down a little lower than that. And I'll put my dot right there. See that? That should be about the center of that female end. I can see it dip down there when I did that, okay? So, in fact, I think that's a little too tight. No, it's about right, because now see it's going over. So yeah, that's about right. That'll be good. Okay, so drag out the leather punch again. Put the knife away. Take a bite out of that. Hit that dot in the middle. Go over here to the light so you can see a little better. Okay. Here we go. A little easier to flip this over and see it easier. Punch that out right there. Okay. Alright. So, here's the snap portion of the sheath. Put that piece on right there. Put the anvil concave side up, because now you're going to be hitting the concave end of the snap part, the concaves. Put it this way, you're just going to flatten it. Okay, so go with the concave end. And I went a little fast this time, I went a little slower, maintain more control. So I'll go 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, it's coming down nicely. Okay. He's a little more forgiving. Okay, that's good. It's not moving. And in the past, with the other tools that I've used on these snaps, I've actually opened this flange a little too much. Flange just had a little too much. I've opened this flange to where it didn't even grab. So you want to kind of get a feel for it. It takes about 2 or 3 of these, but you get the hang of it. I mean, they're pretty easy, but there's the snap. Okay. So I'll come over here. Okay. Determine now how much. Okay, because you're going to have a certain amount hanging off of here, so you can access it easier with your thumb. So I like to give it about Right about there. Looks good. Okay. So I'll take my ice pick, nail, whatever you want to use. Okay. And scribe right here like this. Just a nice little scribe line. Nice little round scribe line. Kind of round it around here. Okay, this. Okay, there we go. Got my blade. Start cutting into that line. Start my incision like I did before. Don't go crazy because you don't want to screw this up. So there's the first cut. Second cut. Okay. Third cut. You get the picture, and if you think, you know, if you're good at cutting this, you're good at cutting this. I'm taking it easy. I just come this far. I don't want to mess it up. Okay. Here we go. And of course, we grind all that off in a little bit. Grinder. Okay, so put the knife back in the sheath. See how it looks. And I got the sheath. And that was the final buffing. I run that buffer along the back of here. Some of the red rouge. Got some of the excess off with the just the ordinary shop cloth. And kind of puts a little bit of a seal on it. Slide the knife in. And that's it, guys. That's how a leather sheath is done by me. Thank you for watching.